Hey you, and welcome to my channel. My name is Tina and my aim is to improve your drawings just like others have done for me when I just started out. In this week's video we are going to be drawing a human portrait together. This follows up with the human features we've drawn so far and combines them all together. I am going to be working off a reference picture from Taylor Swift since I want to draw a subject that is well known and loved by many. That's including me. I quite enjoy listening to her music too. Anyway, on to the video. By now you've seen me apply blue to the background since we are going to be having a simple blue background for this portrait. I'm using panpastels for the underlayer this week as this is easier for me to blend my skin tones with than if I were to use pastel sticks. The panpastel can easily be blended on a sheet of printer paper before applying them to my pastel matte paper. This way I can already judge exactly what color I'm putting onto my paper. This avoids having to color correct all the time and therefore avoids getting my paper filled up too soon, which means I can add lots of layers upon my underlayer. You can quickly change up the darker colors and lighter colors by adding a little more white or some sort of darker shade into your mix. I go through the whole face using only 3 colors, which are a very light peach color, an earthy brown and a dark reddish brown. I almost never use the earthy brown one as this can quickly give your piece a muddy feeling. Instead, I use the reddish brown and the peach color a lot, mix those two together in different amounts so I get that variation in my skin tone. A big mistake a lot of beginners make is laying down just one color for the skin tone and then adding highlights and shadows on top. This looks really flat and boring. Just look at your own face in the mirror. It's not the same color everywhere, is it? As for my face, for example, my skin is a lot more red around my nose and cheeks. So if I were to draw a self-portrait, that would be something to keep in mind and add to my base layer. Now back to Taylor's portrait. On my reference, her nose and cheeks as well as the upper lip area are highlighted or catch more sun. This means I will add more peach color into the mix and just a little bit of that reddish brown. On the right cheek, you see the cheekbone being accentuated with some makeup, which means the shadow beneath it is more pronounced and the cheekbone itself is more highlighted. Again, mix your colors accordingly. Think of this as doing her makeup. I'm no expert on this whatsoever, but hey, this way we can learn something new each day. A very bad thing to do when trying to draw realistically is outlining things. I know the urge to do this can be very strong, but you just have to resist. Instead, use shadows and highlights to act as your outlines. Like you've seen me do on the bottom of her jaw, for example. By putting down that shadow there, her head is separated from her neck, which is the same effect you would get if you would have outlined it. For her lips, I'm just using a very dark pink first to get the shadows in the right place. Then going between those lines with a lighter pink as the base color for the lips and adding some highlights already to where the lips will reflect some light due to her lipstick. Her hair is next. Here I'm adding one base color first all over the hair, then giving some shadows to the back part. This part is a little bit more out of focus, so we're not going to spend too much time there. After the darker color is in, we're going to get in some highlights onto the front part. These are the places that reflect light according to my reference, of course. You've heard it before, I know, but always keep an eye on your reference picture. It's almost impossible to be a realism artist without using one, or more for that matter. On to my favorite part, the part where the pencils come out. We are going to be adding the details and some color corrections with the pencils. I'm starting by going over her hair with a very dark brown pencil. This is to indicate the hairs that don't catch light and look darker because of that. In the back I add a lot of this color as it needed to be quite darker there than what I had laid down with the panpastels. After that I'm using a mid-tone brown to get in some lighter strands. What comes next gives it way more depth, the lighter ivory color. This color will indicate all of the hairs that catch some light, and there are a lot of those in the front. This is Editing Tina, but a friendly reminder of that big red button beneath this video. If that doesn't say subscribed yet, something is wrong. So let's click it to make sure that you get notified every time I upload a new video, which means every Friday at 5 PM Central European Time. You're helping me out a lot by subscribing to my channel, as this helps me reach out to more people and grow my channel even more. So thank you in advance. Oh, and while you're there, click that thumbs up icon if you'd like to help me out even more. After that, it's time for the left eye to come in. I'm using a dark grey to fill in the so-called white of the eye. Since the left eye is in shadow, the white of the eye is really dark, so a dark grey looks really natural here. Once you fill in the iris, the pupil and the lashes, it even looks like it's really just white with a shadow cast over it. Don't be afraid to use bold colors is what you should pick up from this. If you're unsure about which colors to use the color picker tool. I have a whole video on that topic which I'll link in the description below, and I'll pop a card up right here for you to check that out. In short, it's better to use bold colors than to go with the safe choices or the ones your brain tells you that should be there. Those, more often than not, will make your drawing look kinda flat and fake. Before I move on to the right eye, I want to make some adjustments to the face itself. I am adding some dark brown to indicate where the shadows are being cast and where the skin is not lit by light. I am using my blending stump to blend these out, as I can push the pigment into the paper some more this way than if I were to use my hands. Look at your reference picture to see all of those little spots that have a little shadow on them and indicate those with the pencil before going in with the blending stump. I felt like she was missing some warm glow, so I quickly went over the piece with a warm pink color to make it feel like she had a little bit of a warmer skin tone. And then it's time for the right eye. I'm using lighter colors for this one, as this one is not in the shadow. So using a light grey for the white of the eye here, and some pink for the inner corner of the eye. The iris had more light reflected in it as well, which means that I can give the eye some more vivid colors here. I love the color of her eye, as it's not completely blue nor green, but something in between. I almost never get to use these colors, so I'm always extra excited when I get to. Her eyelashes here are really thick, unlike mine. So let's add those in too with the necessary volume. Around the iris I'm putting down a very dark blue to outline the iris, if you will. Be careful not to make this line too sharp though, otherwise it will look cartoony again. Another thing to pay attention to are the lower lashes. Notice that they are not coming out of the line of the skin right next to the eye, but rather come out of the skin just a few millimeters lower. This is a common mistake amongst beginners too, making it look like the lashes are coming out of the eye sockets rather than the skin. Give the lashes some randomness to them, make some of them longer, shorter, going left, right, crossover, and so on. This makes your drawing seem a lot more realistic and natural. Then, as we've indicated the shadows on the face, I'm going to do the same with the highlights, using an ivory color, blending it out again to make it look more natural before moving on to the mouth. For the mouth, I first add in the teeth, as these can be seen a little through the opening in the lips. Again, don't use white for these, as they will look very unnatural. Instead, go for greys again. These may seem dark, but as your color goes around, you'll see that they will look very natural. On the lips, I'm not going to add too much, as I think they look quite good already. Just some fine tuning with shadows and highlights to indicate the reflection of light. And I'm using a little more bold colors to indicate the colors of her lipstick some more. Some fine tuning on the ear to give it a little more definition, but not too much, as we don't want it to draw too much attention. And then we can move on to the last part, her neck and shoulder, for as far as we can see. I'm starting out there with the dark brown again to add in the shadows coming from the light and the muscles of her neck. Notice that I go over this with that pink color again to give her skin some warmer glow. When this is done, blend it out to make it smooth again, as skin should be. Last but not least, the little piece of her dress or top that we can see over her left shoulder. I'm keeping it really simple here so that this doesn't attract too much attention. I use a mid-toned blue color, a dark blue and a grey here. The dark blue is reserved for the shadowed parts and the leaves of the flower that is stitched onto the fabric. The grey is for the petals of the flower. As simple as that, not too much attention goes into it, but just enough to keep it interesting. And just like that, we've drawn a soft pastel portrait of Taylor Swift. If you want to see more of these human portraits, let me know in the comments below. I prefer drawing animals myself, but if this is something that interests you more, let me know. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate your support, as this helps to grow my channel and reach other people just like yourself. Hope to see you again next Friday, and in the meantime, have a great week.